Nebraska has made waves by going after one of the biggest recruits in the country, five-star offensive tackle David Sanders. In today's video, I have an update around that situation. We're going to go over what's been going on recently, how did his visit in Lincoln go, and then I'm going to answer the question, what are the odds for Nebraska to land his talents in a search for a top 10 recruiting class? So, man, oh man, we have a big recruiting video today. Make sure to smash that like button if you're excited about the future of Nebraska football, along with hitting that subscribe button. I'm posting a video about Nebraska football, Nebraska recruiting, Nebraska rumors every single day on the road to 4,000 subs. So please hit that button to help me out and to stay in tune with the Huskers. But without further ado, let's just jump right into it, talking about David Sanders and just a quick recap on him if you're not familiar. The number one player in the country, plays offensive tackle, listed at 6'6", 270 out of North Carolina. And man, he has offers everywhere. Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State, Georgia, South Carolina, Clemson. Everybody wants this guy, and he is the real deal. But Nebraska, they made stories by getting him to go on an official visit to Lincoln a couple weeks ago, and we recently got an update around that. He was interviewed about how much he enjoyed Lincoln and how his visit went and if he's actually considering Nebraska. So let's just dive into what I learned over that David Sanders interview. Now, the number one thing I took away from this was that the reason why he visited Nebraska was because of Dylan Raiola. He said that Dylan Raiola has been a friend of his for a while now, and that ever since Dylan Raiola was actually a commit at Georgia, he's been peer recruiting David Sanders to follow him. That David Sanders said he wasn't even considering Georgia until Dylan Raiola got there and told him to come along. Same thing happened in Nebraska. He ended up flipping to Nebraska, said, hey, same player, just different school. Please consider Nebraska. And David Sanders said, okay, bet I'm going to visit Lincoln. So that was the number one thing. That Dylan Raiola, again, he has those close ties with David Sanders. And I say this all the time. Five-star prospects, they want to play with other five-star prospects. But not just other five-star prospects. They want to play with five-star quarterbacks. Specifically, these offensive linemen, they want to block for a guy who's going to be going to the NFL. That's what we're getting here with Dylan Raiola. That's what we're getting here with David Sanders. Both these players are potential first-round NFL draft picks. He understands that, and that's why Nebraska is even in the running. It's all about those close connections with Dylan Raiola. So, man, Dylan Raiola, he's got to keep on pushing this. He's got to keep on pushing this connection with David Sanders if the Cornhuskers even have a chance going forward. So that's the number one thing I learned. Now, the number two thing I learned diving into his visit some more is that he loved Lincoln. Nebraska really rolled out the red carpet for him. They didn't disappoint. And the number one thing that he was impressed with, as are most recruits, was the facilities. A lot of times they get to Lincoln, they're not sure what to expect. They've never been to the Midwest before. David Sanders said, and I quote, he thought there were going to be cornfields in Lincoln. He was surprised there were not cornfields. But he said he loved the facilities, that they were top-notch, that they were second to none. And that's the thing that you hear from all these four-star, five-star recruits is that Nebraska, they do it the best out of anybody, even some of these top schools like Bama and Georgia. So he liked that. He liked talking with Matt Rhule, said Matt Rhule's very genuine. He's a down-to-earth guy that he can get around, and he'll tell you the hard truth. He'll make you a better football player because of that. So that really, got the liking of David Sanders. And again, they facilitated that family atmosphere. We had Caleb Benning come on campus, Nebraska commit, and he brought his entire family basically to be friends with David Sanders and, again, facilitate that family environment that Matt Rhule's looking for. So, again, David Sanders loved his visit. It couldn't have went better. But here's the third thing I learned, and this isn't a positive, is that the coaching staff has little connection with David Sanders. Now, David Sanders, one thing that I learned from his interview, I really like him as a person. He's very honest. He's a very well-spoken young man. But he said, and I quote, there's not much of a relationship with Nebraska's coaching staff. They were late in the recruiting process until Raiola committed. Then he went on to say, I wouldn't say my relationship is good with them, but it's gotten better. Okay, that was a red flag immediately when it comes to David Sanders and the real chance that he's going to commit to Nebraska. Because I think this was a swing and a miss by Rhule. Okay, you cannot recruit a five-star recruit late in the process. You've got to start recruiting him junior, even sophomore year. The fact that Nebraska is starting to recruit him going into his senior campaign, that's late. We're talking about some other schools who are trying to get his talents. Clemson, South Carolina, they've been after him for a long time. So it's hard to build that relationship very, very quick. And I'm going to tell you this. If he came on a visit solely because of Dylan Raiola, imagine how much of a chance Nebraska would have if we had a real relationship with him and a coaching staff, right? If Matt Rhule actually had a real relationship with him, we would have had an actual genuine chance at David Sanders. But because of that, I don't really like our odds. Again, hopefully Dylan Raiola can still try to work his magic. But yeah, Matt Rhule does not have a connection with him. Donovan Raiola, it's very minimal. And that's just because Nebraska was literally not recruiting this guy until a couple months ago when they gave him a phone call. So for that reason, here's the bottom line from what I learned. This is going to be a very tough addition for Nebraska. I don't like our odds. I would put him at literally like 3% chance, maybe 5% chance. And that's what you expect. This guy's the number one recruit in the country. He's the real deal, but you just can't recruit a 5-star player late in the process. Now, listen, I don't think we're going to land him. I would guess, if I'm a betting man, I would guess he'll be a Clemson Tiger or a South Carolina Gamecock. But that's not really a big deal. The good thing is that we were even in the process with him to begin with, that we got him to visit, that we got him on campus, right? That he was even interested in us because, a couple years ago, 5-star prospects, they wouldn't even look our way. So we're getting up there. We're showing progress. It's not a big deal. But listen, if you actually want to land this guy, you got to do one of two things. Actually, you got to do three things. One, Dylan Raiola got to keep building that connection. Number two, Matt Rhule has got to be texting this guy every single day, building that connection himself. And number three, you've got to offer this guy about $2 million. And I know a lot of fans, old school fans, say, $2 million? That's way too much. That is not way too much in college day or in modern day college football. Everybody's offering $1 million, $2 million for 5-star prospects. So you got to offer about $2 million because I guarantee you South Carolina and Clemson, they're offering that price tag, if not more. So yeah, that's my update there with David Sanders. Again, it was a good shot. I don't like our odds. It's not a big deal, though. This is still going to be a great class for Nebraska. We have a lot of 5-star offensive linemen who are coming on campus very soon, who I will talk about and have already talked about. So watch out for those guys. But let me know down in the comment section below, what are you thinking about this recruiting process when it comes to David Sanders? And hey, if you made this far in the video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. And as always, folks, go Big Red, go Matt Rhule. See you in the next one.